world of uniparty politics, Americans are not seeing that fascism is not bearing to the left or the right, but a corporate endeavor to control policy for self-enrichment and aggrandizement to non-existent issues to socially condition the masses for global influence and control. This is today's New World Order. We the people are not happy with it. This is America Talks.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of America Talks. I'm your host, Greg Toller, here in Kentucky, and the co-host, John Grosner, up in New Hampshire. How you doing today, John?
I am doing, Greg. I couldn't be any happier. Trump's president. Things are getting better. I got to kill that Facebook. Yeah. But yeah, things are going good here.
Yeah, absolutely. 100 days in office here, so he's done a good job. But anyway, our guest this week, I'm kind of excited about. I've had the opportunity to be on his show, Right Side of the Mic, a few times in recent years, and a guy that has a lot of knowledge, a lot of political knowledge, and he's great on his research. I will let him introduce himself and explain everything that he's into. But it's the amazing Doc Green. Doc, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. Good to see you guys, and glad to be on the show today. There's a lot going on in America. Let me ask you this question. Are you tired of winning yet?
I don't get tired of that at all.
No, no, not at all. Not at all.
No, I get up
So, Doc,
every day with a smile on my face. I am Doc Green, and I'm out of Texas. I broadcast every day on AM 1300 in Beaumont, Texas, down in the Golden Triangle. And I've been involved with Texas politics and national politics and activism for a great many years, which I came to know you, Greg. And
yep.
you were a truck driver for a long time.
I was about 10.5 years. Yes, sir.
So, I respect that. And of course, I understand how things, you go to the store, you see that stuff on the shelf, and you just kind of take it for granted. You don't realize that it took a truck driver, maybe many truck drivers, to make that happen. And we should have more respect for truck drivers. And I don't think they can really fully replace truck drivers with these automatic trucks. There's just too much human intelligence involved, in my personal opinion, Greg.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm pushing here in Kentucky to make sure there's always a driver in the driver's seat of those vehicles because there's just so much can happen with electronics and things like that within those. So I'm pushing for that here in Kentucky. Absolutely.
Well, excellent. But getting back to, national affairs, there's no question Donald Trump is doing the right thing, and he's doing it very well. And the left is just screaming. I don't know if you saw the most recent thing he has done, but he went all up and down the driveway at the White House, where all of the reporters would normally stand to broadcast with the White House in the background. And he put up these big posters of all these illegal aliens that he has arrested with the crimes they committed. So now when these guys stand out there, all of these posters are going to be behind them. They're going to have to start reporting on some of this, whether they like it or not.
Yeah. He knows how to get the media going and knows what to do to make them talk about what he wants to talk about. He's good at
I've
that.
never seen anybody better at this than he is. And then there's, of course, the tariffs. And a lot of people don't know, but Donald Trump has been talking with China, and they are working out this tariff thing, even as we speak. They've already decided that a number of items, there will be no tariffs coming or going. And I think that's a good thing. The only thing that bothers me about it is they did mention aerospace technology, and that's something I don't believe should be shared with China under any circumstances. But we'd have to go back and thank Bill Clinton for making that possible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And, tariffs, there's always going to be tariffs coming and going on some things. But there's just some things that we need to get that stopped. And I think he's done a good job, with raising tariffs over what, they're charging us to make this happen. he definitely knows what to do to reach those deals. I mean, obviously, so look at his personal businesses. You know, how did he get so uh, wealthy? You know, it wasn't by just sitting there and letting things happen. He knew what to do, and he got it done, and here he is today.
Well, of course, one of the things a lot of people like to talk about is Donald Trump and his wealth. But we know what Donald Trump sold to get wealthy, which brings to mind the question, what did Joe Biden sell to get wealthy? What did Hillary Clinton sell to get wealthy? I mean, what businesses were they in?
Yeah, well, the only business they were in was the business to steal taxpayer money, I believe.
That's what I
Uh,
that's what I think, and that's another reason why I'm really excited about the Doge. This something like this has never happened in my entire life, and I'm very excited what they're doing with that. But they are discovering now how most of these politicians go up there and make an average 175,000 a year and become multimillionaires in just a few years. They set up these non-governmental organizations, and then they place their spouse in charge of that non-governmental organization, and then they funnel millions of dollars into that non-governmental organization, which never does anything as far as what its charter alleges that it does, but all of that money ends up back in the pockets of the politicians. So this is how they become multimillionaires in a relatively short period of time. So I'm very excited about the fact that they're now investigating some of these things. And of course, being from Texas, you guys probably are familiar with Jasmine Crockett. And Jasmine Crockett, turned out how she made all of her money was she voted on some stuff to be very, very generous with the Arab Emirates and some of the other Arab countries. And shortly after she cast those votes, she all ended up owning roughly $10 million in property, free and clear, in Texas. So very suspicious, if you ask me.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So speaking of Jasmine Crockett, and you being from Texas, uh, what do you see? Do you see a swing maybe to put her out uh, down there, or do you see an upbeat in her district because it is mainly the left?
I don't see any way that Jasmine Crockett gets reelected because, for one thing, she is so stupid. She went after Elon Musk, who, as you know, now is based in Austin, Texas, making him a Texan. And Elon Musk has got no problem putting a few $1 million into a campaign to get her primaried. And ultimately, I think if everything is honest, for instance, we now have voter ID in every state of the union. If we get an honest election, properly counted, these voting machines should all be done away with, but that's another matter. I don't see any way that a Democrat can win in any district in America except for maybe a few of the hardest core leftist Marxist Democrat states. So, like in New York, New York is a very conservative state, but New York City, of course, is run by Marxist. So that's how they keep getting what they get up there. But nationally, even in California, I think you're going to see this huge Republican sweep in the midterms.
Wow. Okay, that's the first prediction that we've had, John, and it's a big one. You
That
know,
that would be that would be a big one. That would be a great deal.
it would be. It
Yeah.
would be. But you know, we did see in the presidential election a lot of California going red.
We
Uh,
did indeed more than they let you know. And for instance, in the black vote, Donald Trump got a huge percentage of the black vote. 56% of black males voted for Donald Trump in this last election. Hispanic males, 46% of Hispanic males voted for Donald Trump in this last election. These are big numbers. And these are numbers that, taken into context, guarantee that the Democrats cannot win an election because they were already on razor thin margins. And in case you guys were wondering, or anyone else out there is wondering, and say hello to some of the guys in the chat, Sean and Carolyn. Um, in case you were wondering, the reason why they brought in over 10 million illegal aliens over the last 4 years was they were planning to give them all voter ID cards and to get them to vote, and they knew they would vote Democrat. It didn't quite work the way that they thought it would, though, because for one thing, a lot of those illegal aliens just did not vote. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
factor. And now that Donald Trump is operating his version of the Publishers Clearinghouse, he's clearing out all of these illegal alien voters nationally, and there are roughly 65 to 75 million illegal aliens in the United States currently. That number of 11 or 12 million, they've been using that number 11 or 12 million now for over 40 years. So we know that's not true. But Donald Trump is setting the stage to get these people out. And the good ones, the honest ones, are self deporting because they do want to come to America and they do want a pathway to at least a solid green card, if not citizenship. So the good guys are moving out. Now, you still got the illegal aliens, like the one that stole the director of Homeland Security, I'm trying to remember her name, that stole her purse. That was an illegal alien, and he had been arrested several times before for theft. So once again, these guys are all going to be departing the country very soon, and I'm pretty excited about it. The quote Maryland man was not deported erroneously. He was deported because he is a known gang member and he was involved in human trafficking. They caught him down in Texas, in fact, with a carload of people of questionable heritage, shall we say. And back then, of course, that was under the Biden administration. So he was let go with a warning, didn't even get a ticket. But the car that he was driving was owned by a known human trafficker. So Maryland man is an illegal alien. He's a human trafficking, wife beaten gangbanger. And we're really glad that he is down there in El Salvador right now. And I understand that he's getting 3 squares a day. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome for him. I guess he gets to share a room, a very large room with a whole lot of other men. Might be a little crowded.
Maybe. Uh, so, Doc, what do you think about the $5 million gold cards?
Well, I haven't gotten involved in a lot of that, and what it's really worth remains to be seen. But the truth is, we have something extremely valuable here in America. And there are plenty of wealthy entities in other countries that want to come here because they see this market and they know how great it is. So why not have something like that where if you have a valid interest where you can really offer something to America, why not pay the 5 million? Let's fast track you to success, build your plant here, hire Americans. I mean, I don't know about you guys in Kentucky and where's John at? Up in
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. I don't know how it is for you. I can tell you how it is in Texas. If you drive through all these little towns, there's just dozens of buildings, big buildings. They're all boarded up. There's no business there. Now, when they built those buildings, there was business there. So can I go back to Ross Perot and the giant sucking sound? Ross Perot was correct. That giant sucking sound that you hear was American jobs going to other countries. And that's what it did. It destroyed the mom and pops here in America. And that was their goal. What Donald Trump is doing is going to restore middle America. You're going to start driving through these little towns over, I'd say within 2 to 3 years. You'll be driving through these little towns. You're going to see the boards coming off those windows, and you're going to see a little manufacturing operations popping up everywhere. And they're going to be hiring people, mostly local people, because if you get rid of all the illegal aliens, you still have to fill those jobs. And there are plenty of Americans that will take them. Plenty of Americans that go out there and harvest your beans in the field. They'll pick your cabbages and your lettuces. They don't mind doing that. It's just they're not going to do it for $7 an hour.
They keep saying that, if we don't have the illegals, we won't have the cheap labor. Nobody's going to pick our crops. We have visas for that. We have people that migrate just to work, and then they go back home when the work dries up. They come here
there's
for the
that.
season.
But there are plenty of Americans that will go out there and pick cabbages, say, for $18 an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
And what about you guys? Would you pay more for a cabbage that was grown in America and picked by an American and carried to the American store by an American truck driver? And here's the other upside that nobody talks about. It's the money. Right now, Mexico, some 60% of their budget is dependent upon Mexicans in America sending dollars back to Mexico. Those dollars go to Mexico, they never come back here because of the trade imbalances. What happens when you're hiring Americans, you're paying Americans a fair wage to do a day's work, and the money goes downtown to the local bank, and that bank loans it out to other American businesses, and that money stays in America? What happens to your economy then? It grows. And when the banks have too much money, what do they have to do? Well, they have to loan that money out. And banking is a retail business. So if there is less demand than there is product, they have to lower interest rates. And what does that mean? Mom and pop America can now go out and say, you know what? I have a service company. I could put 3 more crews on the road, buy 3 more trucks, fill them with gear, and send them out to do this work. If I'm a truck driver, like my son once was before Bidenomics killed him, he had 6 trucks, and he was employing multiple drivers to keep those 6 trucks on the road. That was good for America because he was hiring Americans. The money was staying here in America. We need to get back to this American economy again, where Americans are working in America and that money is staying in America. What say you guys?
No, I
Yeah,
agree
no.
100%. That's exactly right. Strong economies were built that way. When we
And
had the recession in 2007, there were a lot of banks that weren't hurting. And they were questioned, why are you successful when all these other banks are failing? They're like, well, we're not part of the Federal Reserve. We bank the traditional way. And that means we bank locally. We use local funds, we use local money, and we lend out locally. So they were
yep.
successful. They weren't having these issues that national banks were having and international banks were having that were connected to the Federal Reserve and following the Federal Reserve and doing these new standards.
And it's good that you bringing up the fact of everything done American, made American, grown American. The workers are American and things like that. Just today, President Trump signed an executive order that in order to have and to obtain a CDL in the United States, you must speak and read fluent English.
Yes, do you
Um,
love that? I saw in Arkansas
so
where a trucker got pulled in on one of the way stations and they gave him a reading comprehension test in English. I said, man, this is freaking awesome.
yeah, so it's all coming together to where that's going to be a reality. Americans out there picking the cabbage, the watermelon, and things like that. And like you said, with the way you were talking there, that keeps money local. And a lot of your farming areas are small areas with the stores, for instance, that's boarded up and no longer businesses there. So it helps those small communities when it comes down to that because it's keeping the money local.
That's exactly it. And that's how you're going to revitalize America. Uh, there were some globalist, Marxist, a number of years ago that said, no, the way we solve this problem is we get Americans cheap crap made in China, and then they don't need to make as much money because they can buy this cheap crap made in China. Well, what did that do to America? That's how we got these small towns with all these buildings boarded up. Those used to be American businesses, and some people said, well, yeah, but the prices were too expensive. Well, they really weren't because there were Americans there that were making a decent wage, manufacturing, producing, working on farms and whatnot. And of course, as I broadcast with you guys today, I'm actually up in Wyoming visiting my 93-year-old mom. Same thing up here. There's lots of small towns with just nothing but boarded up buildings.
Yeah.
And now we're going to see a revitalization of that. Now, A lot of people are kind of excited. You mentioned earlier that Donald Trump's been president now for roughly 100 days. My God, he's been president for 100 days and he hasn't fixed everything yet. It's going to take a little time. I can tell you from experience, any major economic change you make takes 18 months to 24 months to work. And so strap in. It's going to be a little tough here in the near term, but these tariff negotiations are working. Hello, Anna Lake from Texas. Nice to see you. Um, we these are things that are happening, and they're happening because now we got the adults in charge in Washington, and they're putting America first. And here's the other amazing thing about that: when you put America first, the entire world benefits from a strong America. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. If America is down, the entire world feels it. But if America's up and running and they're strong, then the entire world kind of, uh, you know, they profit off of it, if you want to say, because their economy does better just because the U.S. is doing better. So I absolutely agree.
It really is true. And here's the other cool thing: there was a time when made in America meant something. And if you had something made in America, like people in Japan, they love American made goods. Even to this day, they do. But right now, because of the tariff situation, if you go to Germany, you won't find a Chevy or a Ford. They're not there. You go to China, there's no Chevys, there's no Fords. They're not there. Donald Trump is fixing that.
Yep, yep, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, to answer your question again, I'm not tired of winning. Uh, and it's just going to be even better in another 12 to 18 months whenever everybody in this country sees what he's actually done has actually worked. We know it's going to work, but a lot of people out here, they don't want to believe that it's going to work. But whenever they have to say, man, this is working, then that's when everything's going to be that much better. So, no, I don't think I'll ever get tired of winning.
Do you guys feel any kind of growing pains here as far as product going up? The cost of buying goods are going up. I mean, everybody kept saying everything's going to get more expensive, but I don't feel like it has. I've seen where Canada, on the other hand, is feeling the pains. But I don't think. Do you think here in the United States of America we're feeling it?
Well, I can tell you, I'm in the electronics business in Texas, uh, primarily home theater, though home theater is not what it used to be. But yeah, a lot of my products have gone up, and of course, I happen to like a set of speakers made by a company called Paradigm, and they're in Canada. And of course, I got the letter said, yeah, all your speakers are going up 25%. It's okay because even with a 25% premium, those speakers are so good, I'm willing to pay the price. But I am looking for the day, and I'm going to see it, and you're going to see it. I'm looking for the day when I can again buy an American speaker built in America for a reasonable price. When I can buy an American TV. I used to buy American TVs. I used to sell American TVs. RCA,
Yep.
ProScan, those were American TVs built in America.
Z.
Runco, a lot of you wouldn't know that, but they built a luxury product here in America. Um, RCA used to do electronics. You used to could buy Fisher Electronics built here in America. We need to get back to that, and I want to see these things back to that. And to Ann and Sean and Carol in there in the chat, Ann says she's from Texas. I'd like to know what rough area, and I'd like to know where you guys are from. But look, these things are going to benefit America. Strap in. You're going to be able to buy high quality American electronics within the next 3 years, because what the tariffs do is they make it possible for Americans to compete with the slave wages that they get out of China. And by the way, another reason China is coming to the bargaining table is because India and Vietnam have both stepped up and said, "Hey, why are you doing business with them? Bring your manufacturing over here. We'll build your product for you."
Yep,
There's companies that have been pulling out of China already and going to Vietnam and
yep,
India, and so it's happening already. They're losing it, and they're, Z is trying, or Chi is trying to play it up like he's got Trump by the short hairs, and in truth, he doesn't. Their economy was just starting to get strong in about 2020, just before COVID hit. They were starting to really develop like a middle class economy and all this other stuff. So they were just finally getting to that point where they were going to be a superpower. And now Trump just pulled the rug out from underneath their feet, and they're trying to play it off like, oh no, it's no bother to us. We'll just cut you out. It's not going to happen. They were dependent on us. It absolutely dependent on us.
Yep.
China needs America. And it's very sad that, and we found out during COVID that all of our pharmaceuticals are being built over there. So not only did we get COVID 19 from China, we also got our pharmaceuticals to fix it from China.
Yep.
So Ann has asked a question. My opinion on Cornyn supporting Islamic cities in Texas. Well, first of all, I was one of the early guys that actually financed John Cornyn when he was running for the Supreme Court of Texas. I apologize. There's a picture out there somewhere of him and me standing arm in arm. I wish I hadn't have done it. John Cornyn is a horrible senator, not just for Texas, but for the United States. And what they're doing to Islamicize Texas, you should be afraid. You should be very afraid because they are building these Islamic cities in Texas where Sharia law will reign supreme and outside law enforcement, like Texas Rangers and Texas Highway Patrol, not going to happen. They will not allow Texas law officers into these cities. So we need to be calling our politicians in Texas, and you guys can get in here too. But I'm seeing the Islamization of Texas. I think it's happening all across the United States. Take Britain, for instance, right now. Britain is a totally Islamic country now. Actual British, the Englishmen that we might have come to love and respect in Downton Abbey, they don't exist anymore. The Muslims have completely taken over Britain. Knife violence in Britain is at an all-time high, and they don't like to talk about it. But your chances of being either knifed to death or being run over by a Muslim in a car in Britain, those are the two number one fears for Britain, for British, according to a recent poll. Islam is destroying Britain, and they will do it to America if they get a chance. Once they reach 8 to 10% of the population, Sharia law is going to start showing up in lots of places. So we have to stop that. And if you listen to my daily show on Freedom 1300, or you go to the Doc Green show, which is a replay on Rumble, I talk about this. And I've talked about all of these Muslim areas in Texas and why we need to put a stop to it, because it's very, very bad. So, John and Greg, what about Islam in your areas? What are you seeing?
I'm really not seeing it a lot here. If it is, it's happening just within the inner city of the big cities. For instance, Lexington and Louisville. It's really anywhere else. I really don't see it here in Kentucky. I'm not sure about John, but here in Kentucky, I really don't see a lot of it.
I'm not seeing it here in New Hampshire. Nothing I'm aware of or heard about. We're not seeing it like what you're describing. I am aware that they are actually creating real cities in Texas, the way they did in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, where they took over
Exactly.
Dearborn Heights, Michigan, and they've done this in Minnesota. You got some Islamic cities there, or at least growth of Islamic communities and stuff within cities where they're taking over. We've heard the stories about New York City where people walking down the street with a beer or something being attacked because they're walking by a mosque, and that goes against their Sharia law. They have no right. And as far as what you were saying, we do have supremacy clauses here. And when they start doing this and they're attacking individuals, say you're a traveler and you go through the city and you're attacked, as long as we got a president like Donald Trump, there's a possibility they're acting terroristic. There's a possibility that they're violating certain federal laws, and he can act upon that on a federal level because we do have supremacy clauses. But yeah, it is very concerning because it's a takeover by force. And we should not be tolerant of that. We were taught to be tolerant of other people and their religions, but Muslims were taught the opposite. They were taught that people like you and I are second class to them, no matter where in the globe, and we're expendable. Our lives are expendable to them.
It's a problem.
Absolutely.
You guys need to keep your eyes open because they're doing this everywhere. But right now, they're trying to take over Texas, and what they're doing is they're trying to go into these small little towns and take these over one at a time, and then they vote themselves onto city council. They vote themselves onto the school board. In the little town of Sweeney, southwest of Houston, they have the police force. Now, at least 50% of the police force down there in Sweeney are Muslim. And of course, their job is they're the gatekeepers. If they see anybody nosing around town that's not known to them, they will do something about it. Somebody was killed down there a couple of years ago on their Muslim conclave, and that just went away. Nobody is ever punished for that crime, and details are sketchy.
Uh-huh.
Uh, John and I both know a guy down there that I hope he runs for U.S. Congress down there again. Would be a good congressman for Texas and probably helps try to stop that stuff. I don't know if you know Kyle Sinclair down there or not, Doc.
Well, I don't know him personally, but I am aware of him. And this is why it's so important that we get the right people in office. And getting back to Ann Lake, Ken Paxton's going to be running against Cornyn. I don't think Ken Paxton will have any problems beating Cornyn. But what I worry about down here in Texas, we have the Pink Palace. And I call it the Pink Palace because it's made of beautiful pink granite. And everyone in the Pink Palace thinks they're royalty. And even though we have an alleged Republican majority now going on 25 years, all of the legislation in Texas is led by the Democrats. And the Democrats never met a Muslim they didn't like. They never met an illegal alien they didn't like. They never met a crook in general that they didn't like. That's just who it is to be a Democrat today. And of course, if you're going to be a Democrat today, you have to understand the two major tenets of your faith. First of all, you have to worship at the altar of homosexuality. The second thing is you have to be willing to sacrifice your babies to Molech. And if you are not willing to do those two things, you can't be a Democrat. And that's why I heard some Catholic priest the other day talking about why, if you're a Democrat, you can't be a Catholic. I thought that was pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that is. It's interesting you brought up Moloch. I never tied together because obviously we're aware of some of the occultish rituals we hear about, more or less conspiracy laden. But at the same time, I never thought about abortion being sacrificed to Moloch. But now that you said it that way, I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, there's a connection.
It's exactly what it is. It's a sacrifice to their God. And once you understand that, then it looks a little different. Um, Hello to DC Joe, also, by the way, out there. He said, where's all the Texas cowboys that used to take care of things like this? Well, I think they're highly domesticated and they've become homosexual. That's what worries me the most.
Oh no, don't tell anybody in Texas that. Now you live in Texas, you know better to say that.
Well, I would like to inspire some Texans to grow a pair and stand up, but you see, they're not doing it. I mean, just what happened down here. I don't know if you heard about the new Speaker of the House in Texas, Dustin Burrows, but the guy's a horrible leftist, Marxist Democrat pretending to be a Republican. And the guy he replaced was another guy just like that. And the guy prior to him, this goes all the way back to a guy named Joe Strauss, who was elected as the Speaker of the House in Texas when it shifted more to the left. And he did it by getting 30% of the Republicans and 90% of the Democrats to vote for him. That's how he did it. And that's what they're doing down here now. And that's why the Democrats are leading all the legislation. I asked the question many times. We have a huge Republican majority in Texas, in the Senate and in the House. And then we got Greg Abbott, who's been acting a lot more Republican over the last year or so. How many Republicans do we have to elect to get some conservative legislation? Conservative, I mean constitutional, Texas Constitution. And how many Republicans do we have to elect to get some Christian legislation? And I'll settle for Judeo-Christian legislation. But instead, I mean, they're going out of their way to promote all of this leftist perversion, and I am just sick of it. So, yeah, and where are the cowboys?
The thing about it is, don't you think we lack leadership? I mean, is it we so conditioned as men? If you go back to the old sitcoms, even some of the songs and stuff, The men were always the boobs, and the women are successful ones. The smart ones, had the act together, kept the family together. I mean, things like Simpsons, Married with Children. Even Archie Bunker was losing his position in his family environment. Right, everybody was kind of like circumventing him as the patriarch. Everything's always been kind of like conditioning of the mind to beat down the man and where the man stood. Where we got men today that just aren't men. It's like they lack the testosterone anymore. They're afraid to speak up. But we made a really good stance with Trump. We found a president now that's got the backbone to say what the hard thing to say. He's doing the hard thing to do. No matter how much they hate him, he's going to go forward doing it because he knows it's the right thing for the United States. That's a man with kahunas. That's a man with backbone. That's a man with some true grit. That John Wayne true grit. But
Mhm.
in order for us to succeed past that point after his 4 years is up, I don't think he's getting the third term everybody wants to give him because he can't. Amending the U.S. Constitution is going to be very difficult. However, we need
Not
men to step
impossible,
up.
just
Not
difficult.
impossible. I agree, not impossible. But however, we need good men to step up. We need good men to step up today and pick up the slack today. We need leaders in this country because Donald
Yep.
Trump can't do it all by himself.
Well, he can't. And the biggest problem is, and I think Greg knows this, but the biggest problem we have is right now there are private companies around the world that have more money in their bank account than most governments do. And so it's really easy to buy a politician. And that is my concern. So if you want to know why things are going the way they're going right now, I'll give you two reasons: Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And Elon Musk said it, when they came out and said, "Well, you're saying some things that are hurting your company. Don't you care about your stock price?" And he said, "Offer me money, offer me power. I don't care." You see, that's the difference, and that's why I love J.D. Vance, great guy. I love the Governor DeSantis. I love Governor DeSantis, great guys. But here's the problem: they don't have the gravitas to swing Thor's hammer because they can be bought, they can be coerced. And this, and the way the coercion works is they'll sidle up to you in the parking garage and they'll have some pictures in their hand and say, "Gee, Bob, you got a great looking family there. It'd be a shame if anything happened to them." And that's how they influence the laws here in America, and that's how they bought most of our congressmen and senators. That's why we can't trust them.
Mhm.
I mean, even Ted Cruz, love Ted Cruz, but he's all bark and no bite.
Yeah.
Uh, this is easy, but you can't buy Donald Trump,
No.
can you? You can't threaten Donald Trump, can
No.
you? They shot him, and he jumped up and put his hand in the air and said, "Fight, fight, fight."
He defied them.
That's who these
Yeah.
guys. Even what's his name over there at Facebook said that was the most badass thing I ever saw. The point is, you got two guys up there right now that can't be bought and they can't be
They are
coerced.
untouchable. I
And
mean,
this is why the left is just freaking out, because what are they going to do? They're so used to being able to walk in with a checkbook and say, "Gee, Bob, looks to me like you're kind of behind on your mortgage there. We're going to pay that house off, but we might need a favor
Mhm.
now and then.
the only thing you didn't
Let me make you an offer you
the
can't
only thing you didn't
refuse."
throw in that mix is the way the cartels work that way. Don't think our members of
Silver
Congress
or
don't think
lead, that's the
governors
cartel's
yeah,
motto.
don't think they are not buying our members of Congress or buying our
Oh yeah,
governors and states and
yeah.
So this is what worries me. We've got two guys right now that can't be bought and can't be coerced, but they're not going to be here forever. Who are we going to replace them with? Because as soon as we replace them with almost anybody else who is not a multi-billionaire,
I'm
then you've got a situation where the guy can be either coerced or bought. And Donald Trump, a lot of people don't know this. His entire family, they had a meeting back in 2014, and they pledged their lives and their fortune and their sacred honor to saving America. So Donald Trump's entire family's in on the deal. They're willing to sacrifice their lives for this, and that's what makes Donald Trump
we
strong.
I'm
saw
not
that
trying to
20
be.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm not trying to be play favoritism or nothing, but I mean I could see a Rand Paul or a Thomas Massey not being bought out.
Well, you maybe can't buy them. I mean, Rand Paul's got a little bit of money. He's a doctor. Um, I shared an elevator with Rand Paul once. That guy's only like I don't know. He's like five,
Yeah,
maybe 4'9",
He's
something. He's
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 very
not very
he's
short
big.
and
short.
very skinny. Yes.
Yeah.
But once again, you might you might could coerce him if you can't buy him, because there's a lot of people out there that well, they're not willing to sacrifice. And see, and I had this discussion with my wife several years ago because I was covering the drag queen story hour stuff. And of course, I got arrested in Houston for doing that. They didn't charge me with the crime because I hadn't done anything wrong, but I was getting the most vile, offensive threats from these guys. But I told my wife, I said, if they ever, would come to you and say, "All right, you can save Doc's life if you just give us this," I said, just consider me already dead. And because that's the way you got to look at it. And sadly, I would have to look at the same thing for my family. I don't want to, but the truth is, if you can be coerced,
So
could I be bought? I don't think so. But I never had anybody do what they did to Alex Jones. They walked up to Alex Jones some 20 years ago and said, "Here's 10 million bucks, play ball." And Alex said, "No."
so
Well,
it's funny you bring this up because I met a guy one time. He said, you can kill somebody. That's pretty bad. That's tragic. He said, but spiritual murder is worse. And it's kind of like that's what you're talking about, selling your soul. Literally sell that's what selling your soul is. That is spiritual murder. Because you lose your integrity. You lose what you are inside. You become another man's puppet. You're controlled.
hmm yeah.
Well, that's I had to make that decision a long time ago. So, oh, and Ann said, "How do you get on the Doc Green Show?" Well, if you're in Beaumont, AM 1300 every morning at 7:45. If you're not in Beaumont, you go to Rumble and you look up Doc Greene, Greene, Doc Greene on Rumble, and subscribe to my channel. It is free. And Carolyn said, "Never sell your soul to the devil." Absolutely agree. So you gotta be in a position where you're willing to stand up for what's right, and regardless of the character assassination. And of course, the homosexuals tried to assassinate my character, and they failed. But at one point in time, I had to shut down my company website because they were just destroying it.
Yeah.
So, freedom1300.com would be their website address for that radio station, would it not?
That's it. Freedom1300.com. There's a live link there. Um, My show is 7:45 every day Central Standard Time, and you can certainly check it out. And like I say, I try to put up the show every day also on Rumble, and go to rumble.com. A lot of conservative people up there, and you can subscribe. It's free. I don't sell subscriptions. And we're trying to get that channel built. I used to have a really big YouTube channel, but YouTube just one day after 8 years and thousands of hours of programming, YouTube just came in and said, "Yeah, we had enough of you. You're
Isn't it
gone."
horrible how they could just do that? You could have a million followers, but they don't like your message, so then they decide to
Well, in spite of everything they did to me, um, I still had over 50,000 followers. And I mean, after I went to DC on January 6th, and I was about 20 feet from the action, I never got inside the Capitol, not for lack of trying, but I just couldn't get there. There's too many people. Um, I took my 3 hours of video, condensed it down to an hour and 20 minutes, put it up on YouTube. YouTube took it down immediately and then suspended my channel for 9 months.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech is out the window when it comes to something like YouTube and all that stuff. Uh,
We hope that Donald Trump and his administration, Elon Musk, JD Vance, um, and by the way, JD Vance has power right now because he's under the cover of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. So he's able to get some stuff done. But we hope that they will change legislation and make these guys responsible so that they can't just shut down conservative voices like they've been doing. I mean, why are you guys here instead of on YouTube? Because YouTube is what it is. And several of the things we said today on YouTube would just get you
Well,
canceled.
I'm noticing YouTube isn't as bad as what it was. Just don't bring up anything about the spicy cough, COVID is will get you kicked off there in a heartbeat. But for the most part, they're
That
not
was
as
ultimately what got me killed. Was I had a politician on there talking about what they would do with the COVID thing. Were they in a position to do so? And that was it. They just said, "All right, we're done with you." So and here's the thing: I was 48 hours away from having 0 strikes when they
oh,
gave me my 3rd strike.
oh man.
Oh, wow.
But Rumble,
And that show that they found was 6 months old when they
right,
found it.
right.
So for 6 months it was cool. But then when they said we got to get rid of this Doc Green guy, there's an election coming up. Well, that's what they did.
Chris Wyatt on my Wednesday show, he had a strike and he contested the strike. They said, "Oh, wait a minute, we were wrong, you were right." So they put his show back on. Then they found fault with him, gave him another strike, so he got 2 strikes on that one show. They doubled down on him, man. That's how bad they were. And they were the ones that put it back up.
Yep. But that's how they do it. And still, even after a 9-month suspension, I still had over 50,000 subscribers when they shut me down. But that was the Doc Green retirement plan, by the way. So now I don't have a retirement plan.
Oh,
Yeah, so your Freedom 1300 show is at 7:45 a.m. Central Time, correct?
That's it. 7:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. And you guys can adjust that for wherever you're at. If you want to go to freedom1300.com, listen to the show live. And there's some good people on the radio show down there. I'm just one of several.
Good deal.
I
Good
can
deal.
check that out. I haven't heard it yet. And in the morning, I like to catch something like that. Sometimes I find myself on X and going through the spaces, and every once in a while, God forbid, but I do every once in a while go to TikTok and see if I can find something live going on. And those types of discussions.
There is stuff on TikTok, but TikTok censored my channel
Oh,
immediately. Somebody said, "You need to be on TikTok." So I went on TikTok. I was doing really well for a couple of
yeah.
weeks. And then they said I was posting
Oh,
porn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
so
know.
And shut me
TikTok,
down.
I don't think is a very good platform. A lot of people love it, but I think it's a lousy platform.
But they've got porn on TikTok, so why would they care?
I've never seen that, but
But what they don't want is they don't want the conservative Christian constitutional viewpoint getting traction.
no, they
Yeah.
don't. And it's weird because you think TikTok. Well, no, I guess they wouldn't because if they're Chinese owned, right? But truth of the matter is, American TikTok is got a lot of American investors in it, but they're high dollar investors. So maybe you're right. They don't want that kind of message out there.
Yeah.
Hey, Carolyn, what general area are you from?
I believe she's somewhere between Dallas and Houston. Doc, I'm not exactly sure exactly where, but I think it's somewhere there in between the two.
Well, I've got some friends out there in Kentucky, and I need to get out there and see them. Isn't that where they built that ark thing?
Yes, it's actually about 40 minutes from my house here. It's the life-size replica of the Noah's Ark. Yeah, absolutely.
I really want to go there. But I understand you got to take at least 2 days because there's so much to see. You can't see it in a single day.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely big. They stay pretty busy, but it's just to see it with your own two eyes is like wow. It's really something to see for sure. I know I'm sure your show on 1300 there. I'm sure it's good. Whenever I was driving a truck, I always look forward to 1 o'clock Central Time every day because I just turn the right side of the.
That was back when I was on American Voice Radio, and but yeah, and that was also I was doing a 2-hour live every day, 5 days a week. Did that for 10 years. So I'm actually enjoying doing this show out of Beaumont because it's not that long, except for Saturday. But Saturday's still only an hour,
Yeah.
and so I don't mind doing it. But on my Saturday show, particularly if you do it on Rumble, I post some good video there as well as some good audio, and I try to cover things that I think are really interesting that are maybe not being covered by everyone else.
Yeah. Yep. And you're the man to know that. I mean, that's one thing I learned over the years, uh, being on your show and things like that. I mean, I knew that you knew what you're talking about, and you researched and you done a lot of it. That helped me out a lot. I learned a lot just by listening to that show. That's for sure.
Well, and you ran for Congress too, my friend. That was fairly
Yeah,
impressive.
we're back in it, this year. Here in the Kentucky 70th district. We're back in it, and it's looking good, going good. So we'll see where that goes.
Well, very good, Carolyn. Yeah, halfway. I wonder if she's anywhere near that chocolate factory or the cheesecake, or excuse me, the fruitcake factory. Those are two things I think of between Dallas and Houston. So I always like to stop by there. I got a friend, the Reverend Mark Zaragoza, up in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, and we've known each other for golly, I don't know, 40 some years. And he still listens to my show, but I said, Mark, you need to come on there. He said, nah, I probably better not because I'd probably say something. So,
Oh, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to get out there about Texas or federal up in DC or anything before we get to the end of our time here?
well, the truth is, right now, I get up every morning with a smile on my face. No, everything's not perfect, but for the first time, I feel like I have some people that are actually interested in Washington, D.C., into what I, as an average American, care about. I am loving the fact that they're getting us back toward a constitution thing. And I don't know if you're aware of this. They're talking about taking TSA and shutting it down. That's a big deal for me because I fly a lot. And TSA is completely unconstitutional. It's a complete violation of the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and the 14th Amendment, and should not exist. So they're talking about taking TSA, shutting it down, and handing it back to the airlines or the airports the way it should be. You see, if the airlines or the airports were running TSA, it would be completely acceptable. But because the government is running it, it's an absolute violation of the Constitution and should not exist. So we're looking forward to seeing that government. I mean, the whole idea of TSA was to create a reliable Democrat voting bloc. Democrats have long ago figured out that the average person out there does not want to have their Marxist politics shoved down their throat. And so the only way Democrats can win is if they can get these government agencies, these huge voting blocks, and use them. Well, now even that's not working because these government employees are looking at what's going on out there and said, man, I don't worship Molech. I don't want that. I don't think homosexuality is a good thing for America. I don't want that. So they're voting for Trump. The union men are voting for Trump. Everything is going exactly in the wrong way. I just don't see how a Democrat is going to stay in power. And I think what you're going to see in this upcoming midterm elections, assuming they can get rid of some of the crap that's out there and purge the voter rolls. The voter rolls should be purged every 2 years. If they do that, I don't see a Democrat getting elected for probably maybe the next 10 years.
I think, and I don't know if John can remember, but after the election was over with, we had a show that we done on Thursday night, and I've done that research, and to be honest, Doc, I don't see another Democrat getting elected as president till at least 2040.
Well, that's what I see. Hey, real quick, if I got a minute, the Doc Green voting plan: purge the voter rolls every 2 years, 100%. If you want to vote, you got to show up with a real ID down at the courthouse and register every 2 years. Second thing, all ballots have to be paper ballots. and they need to be on cloth paper, just like your dollar bill is. Every ballot should have a gold embossed serial number on it because you can't print that. And you should only print up enough ballots to match the number of registered voters in any given district. And since they have to re-register every 2 years, that's going to be a very small number. So what's going to happen? You're going to end up with about 25 to 30% of the people actually casting a vote every year. And on paper ballots, the cost of doing this will be roughly a third of what it currently costs to run an election. Get rid of all these voting machines, and this will give you real elections in America. Voter ID, purge the voter rolls, paper ballots, and by using the gold embossed serial numbers and only printing enough ballots for a given precinct, all voter fraud goes away.
That sounds pretty simple.
I like the sounds of that.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, call your congressman, call your senators, give them that plan.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But we're coming down here now to the end. Doc, I appreciate you coming on. I hope we can follow up and maybe do a part two of this because I know there's a lot more that you'd like to get out there and don't have time in an hour to get it. So, I mean, I hope we can do a part two sometime with you on here for sure.
I would like you guys to do that. And crazynestcreations.com, my sponsor, crazynestcreations.com. Go there and get your Gulf of America t-shirt.
Hey, there we go. There we go. And then also, like you said earlier on Rumble, he's trying to get his numbers up on the Rumble. So go over to his Rumble account there and follow, liking, whatever, watch his shows because I guarantee that you will learn something out of his show for sure.
Welcome, Papa Patriot. A little late, but we're glad you made it.
Yeah, absolutely. He can watch it even afterwards. So, but yeah, Doc, we really appreciate you coming on, spending time out of your day while you're traveling out to see your mom. We really appreciate that for sure.
Well, you guys take care. You got a great show here. Together, we can save America.
Absolutely. So everybody, if you like the political shows, John has two more on the Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network every week. On Tuesday night, he has Patriot Confederation. It also starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday night, he has a Common Sense Conservatives with Chris Wyatt and Todd McKinley. It starts at 7 o'clock. That's his 2-hour show. And then not so political, but turns political a lot. On Thursday nights, he has the Independent Trucker Show right here on the Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network. And then on Sunday afternoons, his wife, TJ, has the brew that goes on Sunday afternoons. And we will be back next week, same time, same place. We will have a guest from Minnesota, I do believe, next week here. And John, I'll let you take it out.
Awesome. Doc, thank you for coming on. It was nice to meet you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you the trucker's farewell. Keep the greasy side down, the shiny side up. In between the line, safe travels wherever you may be going. And as always, be good. And if you can't be good, we'll be good at it. And we gone.